a shadow in the mirror. You look in the mirror, you see your face. Familiar down to every wrinkle, down to every feature. You think you know this person inside and out. But now I'm going to ask you one simple question, and it could change everything. What if there's someone else hiding behind that reflection? A stranger. Someone capable of petty cruelty. Someone who secretly, without admitting it, feels a twinge of pleasure when another person suffers, makes a mistake, looks foolish. Someone who sometimes feels bored without the tears of others. Don't turn away. This thought is unpleasant, but it's the key to the most important journey of all. A journey deep within. We're used to thinking of evil as something loud and obvious. Serial killers, tyrants, movie villains. It's convenient. It allows us to feel safe on the other side of the fence. We are good, they are bad. It's simple. But the most frightening truth about human nature isn't the monstrosity of individuals. It's a potential everyday evil that quietly lives within each of us, in those dark impulses that stir in the back of our psyche. We are neither angels nor demons. We are a complex, contradictory blend of both. And our dark side, our shadow, is not an accidental glitch. It is an integral part of the whole. Denying it is like denying that you have a shadow from the sun. Futile and foolish. Today, we will journey through this uncharted territory. We won't judge or frighten. We will understand. We'll start with a map, with what psychology calls these dark traits. You'll learn about the dark tetrad, the four faces of our shadow, which manifest in the most ordinary behavior. Your colleagues, your friends, maybe even in you. Then we'll look at the numbers. I'll show you some shocking research data. It turns out that up to 6% of the people around us may have sadistic tendencies. They derive pleasure from the pain of others. These aren't abstract monsters. They ride the subway with us, work in the office next to us, stand in line with us. We'll try to get to the bottom of it. Why does the shadow awaken? What does a person seek by inflicting pain on another? Power? Thrills? Confirmation of their own significance? We'll delve deeper, drawing on the ideas of great philosophers. And most importantly, we'll ask ourselves honest questions. Do we recognize our own shadow in any of this? This won't be to induce guilt, but to disarm these dark impulses. Because only a conscious demon is a tame demon. Are you ready to look in that mirror again? If so, then let's go. Friends, please subscribe, like, and comment. This is very important to us. And we continue. Section 1. A map of unknown territory. The dark tetrad. So, we've acknowledged the existence of the shadow. But to understand the enemy, and in our case, this hidden part of ourselves, we need to name it. Without a clear map, any journey becomes a groping in the dark. Psychology has given us such a map. It's called the dark tetrad. Sounds menacing, right? Robes, daggers, and conspiracies immediately spring to mind. But in reality, it's much simpler and therefore more terrifying. These aren't portraits of serial killers from crime reports. They're a collection of the most ordinary, surprisingly resilient human traits. Let's get to know this quartet better. First face, narcissism. This isn't just self-love. It's a deep, unshakable belief in one's own exceptionalism. The narcissist is convinced that he is the center of the universe. For him, those around him are just a backdrop, mirrors meant to reflect his brilliance. Other people's feelings? Unimportant. Rules? For someone else. In everyday life, it's the colleague who steals your ideas and passes them off as their own, or the partner who devalues your successes because they pale in comparison. Second phase, Machiavellianism, cold calculation, and the art of manipulation. The Machiavellian sees people not as individuals, but as pawns in a complex chess game. His motto is, the end justifies the means. He masterfully flatters, plays on weaknesses, and weaves intrigues. He's always several steps ahead, because for him, everyone is just a tool. Do you recognize your friend who always skillfully guides you to the decision he wants, leaving you with a feeling that it was your own idea? There he is. Third phase, psychopathy. Here, too, don't immediately conjure up an image of a man with a knife. We're talking about everyday, socially adapted psychopathy. Its foundation is a complete lack of empathy, compassion, and remorse. Such a person wears a mask of normality, sometimes a very charming one, but inside lies an emotional void. They don't feel your pain. They don't understand your fear. For them, it's a strange, incomprehensible noise. This is the boss who can fire someone in a minute and then go to lunch as if nothing happened. This is the partner who systematically cheats and genuinely doesn't understand why you're unhappy. And finally, we come to someone who is long hidden in the shadows of their more famous colleagues. The fourth face, sadism. Yes, that one. But we're not talking about torture in basements. We're talking about everyday sadism. Someone who derives pleasure from humiliation, psychological pressure, the very process of inflicting suffering, even mental suffering. He doesn't need fists or torture devices. A caustic comment under a photo is enough for him. He only needs to spread gossip and watch someone's reputation crumble. He delights in your confusion, your pain, your tears. This is the most shocking element of the Tetrad, because cruelty here is not a means of power, as with the Machiavellian, or resources. It is an end in itself. It is a source of pleasure. Here they are, the four horsemen of our personal apocalypse. And most importantly, they rarely travel alone. More often than not, they intertwine into a surprisingly stable, toxic cocktail. Narcissism provides justification. I have the right to do this. Machiavellianism is a tool. Psychopathy is immunity to pity. And sadism is the very dark energy that fuels this entire construct. And now we'll take a closer look at it, because there's much more of it around us than we think. Section 2. Numbers and faces. The phenomenon of ordinary sadism. So, we've looked at the map. We know that sadism is one of the four faces of the shadow. But it's easy to talk about abstract concepts. It's far more frightening to see real numbers and living, recognizable faces behind them. In 2014, a study was conducted that was a real shock to the psychological community. It showed that up to 6 out of every 100 people around us may have sadistic tendencies. Let's stop at that number. 6 out of 100. This isn't a statistical error. This isn't a chosen one in a crowd, in a crowded subway car, in a large open space. At a school assembly, these people exist. They are among us. They don't wear insignia. They don't have glowing eyes or sinister laughter. They look completely normal. They may be cheerful conversationalists, model family men, and honest taxpayers. But what is this everyday sadism if it's not about torture and violence? It's much simpler and therefore more terrifying. It's about pleasure. Pleasure from humiliating another person, from psychological pressure, from watching someone else suffer, feel discomfort, find themselves in an awkward situation. Physical violence isn't required here. It's been replaced by words, hints, and actions that hit precisely where it hurts. Let's look around. Do you recognize these people? Example 1. The internet troll. He doesn't just argue. He gets genuine pleasure when his caustic comment hits you where it hurts. When you, unable to restrain yourself, respond with anger, he capitalizes on your negative emotions. For him, it's a hunt, and your nerves are the prey. Example 2. The complaining neighbor. Someone who writes angry letters to all authorities not because their rights have been violated, but because the very act of informing, the very act of inconveniencing their neighbor gives them a strange, vague pleasure. They feel powerful when someone is called to task for their snitching. Example 3. A member of a toxic community. Someone who relishes in harassing someone online or in real life. They may not even know their victim personally, but they enjoy being part of a pack that tears others apart. They enjoy the feeling of unity and cruelty, the right to pass judgment and receive the approval of their group. This is everyday sadism. Their weapon is not a fist, but a taunt, not a knife, but an anonymous account, not a threat, but gossip launched at the right moment. They feed not on blood, but on the tears, anger, and despair of others. And now that we've seen his true, ordinary face, the main question is, why? What makes these seemingly ordinary people take pleasure in the pain of others? Let's look even deeper into the very origins of our shadow. Section 3. In search of origins, why does the shadow wake up? We've seen faces. We've learned numbers. Now the most important and uncomfortable question. Why? What makes a seemingly normal person experience pleasure from the tears of others? What triggers this dark mechanism within us? There are several answers, and they show that sadism isn't some mystical obsession, but completely understandable, albeit ugly, psychological strategy. Power and control. Imagine how helpless a person can feel in their own life. Pressure at work, a mortgage, social expectations, a string of failures. All this gives rise to a profound sense of powerlessness. And here lies the way out. The shortest, the dirtiest. Humiliate another. Make someone suffer. At this moment, the sadist feels a surge of incredible strength. I'm not the one being kicked. I'm the one who kicks. It's an instant, addictive rush of power. It compensates for all of life's failures in one fell swoop. Cruelty becomes the easiest way to prove to oneself, I exist and I am strong. Boredom and the search for thrills. For some people, life is a gray, dull flatness. Routine. Days are similar to each other. Emotions are dulled. They need a strong stimulant. Adrenaline. What could be stronger? Gambling, extreme sports? No. There is something more powerful. Someone else's pain. Humiliation of another is the most powerful, the most forbidden drug. It's a jolt to the numb psyche. By launching online bullying or reducing a colleague to tears, such a person is simply having fun. They fight boredom in the most monstrous way possible. Compensation for a diminished ego. Deep down, this person considers themselves worthless. They can carefully hide this even from themselves, building a shell of arrogance. But his self-esteem is a leaky bucket, and to feel significant, even temporarily, he needs to find someone who will make him look even more insignificant. By humiliating and mocking others, he temporarily elevates himself in his own eyes. Look how pathetic he is. That means I'm not like that. I'm better. These are scales that will never be balanced. For one to rise, the other must fall. But to understand the root of all this, we need to take a step toward philosophy. Here, two giants come to our aid, Friedrich Nietzsche and Carl Gustav Jung. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, the primary driver of human nature. It's not simply the desire to command. It's a deep-seated urge for self-affirmation, to expand one's influence, to overcome oneself. But in a weak, undeveloped spirit, this will is perverted. They cannot create, they cannot develop. The only way for them to feel their power is to humiliate and destroy those around them. His will to power becomes a will to destroy. And Jung gave us a precise and capacious concept, the shadow. It's that part of our personality that we refuse to accept, that we repress into the unconscious. Our dark desires, base impulses, shameful thoughts. We pretend they don't exist. But the shadow never goes away. It accumulates, grows stronger, and begins to control us from within. And then it erupts in such an ugly way, in the form of unmotivated aggression, malice, the desire to inflict pain. Jung spoke sternly and precisely. The shadow we refuse to look into rules our lives. Someone who displays ordinary sadism is a person whose shadow has broken free and taken the wheel. He's not aware of it. He doesn't know it. He simply obeys it. But what if we try to get to know it? What if we dare to look into our own shadow? Let's do it. But be honest. Section 4. Soul diagnosis. Do we recognize our shadow? We've reached the most important and personal moment of our journey. Until now, we've been looking around, seeking shadows in others, examining their portraits. But now it's time to turn our gaze inward. The most honest conversation is always a conversation with oneself. Let's be honest. Our own shadow is a master disguise. It hides behind logical explanations, behind a veneer of fairness, or simply in a fog of our unconscious impulses. Let's put aside all excuses for a moment and ask ourselves a few simple, yet uncomfortable questions. Simply listen to the first, quietest reaction of your soul. The first question is about other people's failures. Recall a situation where your rival, someone you compete with at work, in sports, in anything, failed. Not a global tragedy, just an inconvenience. He made a mistake. His project failed. He was publicly criticized. You most likely express sympathy. perhaps even helped. But deep down in the darkest, quietest room of your mind, did a tiny, lizard-like spark of satisfaction flicker? Did an inner whisper ring out, "There you go, I told you so"? Did you feel for a moment that you become a little bigger and he a little smaller? This doesn't make you a monster. It makes you human. It's your shadow that rejoices at the weakening of a competitor. The second question about forbidden curiosity. You're driving along the highway. Ahead, there's a traffic jam, an accident. Cars slowly creep past. You know you should be looking at the road, that it's unethical to stare at someone else's misfortune. But your gaze involuntarily slides to the wrecked cars. You search for details. You're trying to discern what happened there. You're driven not only by compassion and anxiety. You're driven by something else too, a burning, primitive, ancient curiosity about the suffering of others. It's the same mechanism that compelled our ancestors to watch public executions. At this moment, it's not the civilized man who awakens, but an archaic being exploring the boundaries of life and death. This curiosity is also part of the shadow. Question 3, about the thirst for victory. You're in an argument, a heated, principle one. It's about something important to you. And so you search for an irrefutable argument. You see how your opponent is at a loss, how he can't find a response, how defeated he is. What do you feel at this moment? Pure joy from the triumph of truth? Or something else? Isn't this joy mixed with the sweet, almost physical sensation of your own victory? Are you hurt not so much by the injustice of his words as by the desire to see him defeated? Here's capitulation. Are you right? The shadow enjoys not the establishment of truth, but the act of domination. It derives pleasure from the victory itself, from the fact that you proved stronger. What to do with all this now? The most important thing and the most difficult is not to immediately start reproaching yourself and denying these feelings. No, I've never felt this way. This is a lie we tell ourselves to maintain our bright image. Acknowledging these impulses doesn't mean giving in to them. It doesn't make you bad. Quite the opposite. Becoming aware of your shadow means disarming it. As long as the shadow is unconscious, it controls you. You get angry, resentful, gloating, and don't understand where it comes from. You're a puppet. But the moment you admit, yes, this dark, unpleasant feeling sometimes awakens within me, you take its power away. You take the wheel. You're no longer driven by blind impulse. You see it, call it by name, and can make a conscious decision. I won't give in to this now. I'll do something different. This is the moment of true adulthood and freedom. Not freedom from dark thoughts. That's impossible. But the freedom to choose, to give in to them or not. And this choice is the main outcome of our journey. Conclusion. Taming your inner demon. Our journey is coming to an end. We've come a long way. From that first glance in the mirror, through the dark corners of psychology, through uncomfortable questions we asked ourselves. And now it's time to gather all this knowledge and figure out what to do with it all. Let's be honest. The shadow is a part of you, as integral as your hand or your heart. It can't be torn out or cut off. You can try to pretend it's not there. You can stuff it into the darkest corner of your subconscious, pretending you're all light and kindness. But that's self-deception. Denying your shadow is like denying gravity. You can jump off a roof, screaming that you don't believe in the law of gravity. But the outcome will be predictable and tragic. It's not the presence of the dark side that's dangerous. The danger lies in not knowing about it, because you can't control an invisible enemy. It controls you. But today, you and I have shown a spotlight on this enemy. We've recognized its face. And that's our greatest asset. The key message of everything we've discussed can be summed up in one simple, yet powerful thought. Recognizing your dark side is not a death sentence, but the greatest act of freedom. As long as the shadow is unconscious, you are its slave. You commit acts you can't explain later. You get angry, resentful, hurtful, and don't understand which way the wind is blowing. You are a puppet. But everything changes the moment you say, yes, it's within me. I know this inner demon of mine. I'm familiar with it. From that moment on, you take back its power. You no longer follow blind impulses. You see it, call it by name, and can make a conscious, mature decision to succumb to it or not. True morality, true fortitude, doesn't lie in never experiencing bad thoughts. Only saints can do that, and not even all of them. Strength lies in recognizing their nature when they occur and choosing to do the right thing, choosing not to hurt, choosing compassion, choosing good, even when the shadow whispers its seductive arguments in your ear. Only by integrating our shadow, acknowledging its existence, can we truly control it. We can direct its colossal, primitive energy not toward destruction, but towards something else. Perseverance in achieving goals, healthy self-esteem, protecting ourselves and our loved ones. We don't destroy the demon. We tame it and chain it. Now, return to that very first image, to the mirror. Next time you look in your reflection, try doing what we're so afraid of. Try not to look away. Look into the eyes of that stranger who lives in the depths of your gaze. Get to know him. Discern his features. Find out what he needs. Because only by getting to know him, only by acknowledging his existence, can you decide which of you will hold the helm. The journey is over, but your real work is just beginning.